Hey everyone, welcome to the Dallo Podcast, episode 73. So guys, how y'all been? Pretty good this week?
Tired.
Still here.
Yeah. So let's get into the Mario movie real quick.
It's
Um
me, Mario.
Fantastic. I think that everyone, all the cast members that they got to do that movie were great. It explains why you know, we have Mario and Luigi not talk their cartoon characters because it's what they do in the actual advertisement for their plumbing company.
You
But
know, I really like John Leguizamo playing Luigi. I thought he was fantastic.
But
his
I
action
mean,
figure looked like
for
Mark.
the three movie, yeah, he did good back in the old one. Him and Bob Hoskins almost killed themselves in that, and I think Hoskins denies the existence of that movie to this day.
He's
Yeah, he
dead.
did.
So yeah, he
He
denies
drank
everything.
himself. They both of them drank themselves most of the time on that movie
Yeah.
set. So
He went after he came off of a 6-week drunk. He was like, "I made what?"
yeah,
Wait, it wasn't another Roger Rabbit?
we didn't do a sequel to Roger Rabbit, the most successful movie at the time.
I'd have done that movie.
No, but we do. We made Cool World, huh?
Cool World was a good movie too.
Yeah.
Wasn't Roger Rabbit though?
It wasn't Roger Rabbit.
It
no.
wasn't Roger Rabbit. No.
Yeah,
But no, Mario
No,
was
go ahead.
good. Me and my wife and son enjoyed it heavily. Very well animated. It had every elements from all the games in there. Even some of the side stuff. It left things open for possibilities for other universes. Try not to give too much away in this movie. Jack Black is great as Bowser.
Well, I mean, there was never any doubt on that, right? Jack
No,
Black
well,
was
no,
Bowser. Everyone
You
was
did.
worried about Pratt with Mario and whether or not Seth Rogen was just going to phone in a Seth Rogen voice for Donkey Kong, which he does, right? We get the Seth Rogen laugh and all the rest of that nonsense in there.
luckily we only really got one of those laughs. I mean, honestly. I mean,
Yeah,
I was
no,
like, I thought
it
he was going
wasn't.
to be the whole movie, and it's like, come on.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He wasn't jarring, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't that bad. I know that there's people that just hate him because it feels like his name is everywhere at
And
the
he's
moment,
ruining the
right?
turtles. He's ruining turtles. Let's just
Jar Jar
Yeah,
Rogan.
we
Okay,
got
we've
that
already
going
done. We've
on.
done a show on that. Let's not
um
digress.
but
We have other things to
Toad
run.
Toad was my favorite character in the movie.
No, man, my favorite character was Luma, the weird little
Um,
nihilistic blue star in that. I love that thing, man. Like 90% of the movie, I'm like, this is pretty good, and then that star showed up. I'm like, I love this thing. And then the fact they end it going into credits, right? It's over,
yes.
or is it?
Or
Now
is
it's
it?
just you and the endless void. It was like, yeah, I like this thing. This thing's great.
Yeah. Um and it does set it up in a way for a sequel, so
I
we'll
mean,
see
just
how
by
that
having
goes.
that thing there, Galaxy exists, right? Rosalina's got to be
Yes.
out there. Like, I mean,
Well, I
yeah,
mean, was is that a surprise? I mean, they've got the second game, the third game. They've got all these games that they can do.
yeah, but they're not following the games.
Let's.
I
I
mean,
know. I'm
clearly,
just
No.
joking.
Yeah,
I'm just like, if you're going to make a cartoon about a game series, you're going to make another one. Look what they did. Sonic 2. Sonic 2 was actually better than the first Sonic, I think.
but I mean, Nintendo is a pain to get them to do this kind of stuff, right? It feels like they've been holding with an iron grip on their IPs forever now.
ever
Outside
since
of like
Mario
the early TV
bombed.
shows and all that, they don't license their IPs out for anything. And
Mhm.
like me and my brother were talking about it after this movie came out, talking about how like I'm already on record of this. Do not do not do not do a
Bright
Nintendo.
lights. It was flashing. It was
Flames,
sparkles,
flames.
flames,
Hold on.
shooting out of my head. Okay, go ahead,
No,
Jason.
just do not do a connected universe. I don't want Zelda. I don't need a Smash Brothers movie. I don't want a Smash Brothers movie.
No, you don't need to do that. But I mean, there's
No,
other properties that do
Don't
need.
you want Link
What
to
I want.
pass through the next movie and go, well, excuse me.
Princess. No,
The second that's about to come out of his mouth, like just have it be the back of his head. You see the cap, and then you hear the voice start coming out, and I just need
And
either
a
an
bullet
arrow
goes through his head and it goes,
throat.
there's blood all
Yeah.
over one of the bricks.
Yes, that's
And
what
then
can happen.
Liam Neeson walks
no.
out and goes, I have a particular set of skills and I can't tolerate when people do that.
so he's going to be Impa.
No, you just have Link be like Marcel Marceau in Silent Movie.
No. I'm
that's
curious. My brother and I, when we were talking about it, I would love to see Ghibli do Zelda, right? I don't want 3D animation.
That would
That'd
be
be fair.
great.
That'd
That
be
would
fair.
I would love that. You know, think
You
about
mean
it.
the studio? Because I doubt we're going to get him back to do.
Miyazaki? No, Miyazaki's
No,
not
no,
coming.
but his son or somebody within the studio to do it, that'd be fantastic.
No,
You know,
that's the art style I want for it, right? I don't want the Mario Brothers movie art style. Like it's fine, but I would rather see Zelda done in that kind of Ghibli style of art. And I would love to see them do a slightly more serious toned Metroid movie, right? I mean,
I actually know that needs to be live action. To me, it
Yeah,
needs to be.
Metroid is geared for a live action. But you know what else is? I mean, there's, we have this bankrupt industry that can't come up with any ideas, but you've got Chrono Trigger, which would make an excellent movie.
Or TV series.
And I get what I can't understand is why we don't have we've only had two movies related to what was it? My brain's like racing and I can't catch
Silent
up.
Hill.
No, I'm talking whatchamacallit,
Candy
with
Bars?
Cloud in them.
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy.
Final
Well,
Fantasy.
I mean, they're doing the remake right now, so I mean, we should be getting part 2.
But a live action, you could do that.
No,
no, unfortunately not, because
stop with the live action. Not this stuff doesn't need to be live action. It doesn't need to be. Do it animated.
If I want Scarlett Johansson in something, I want it to be live action.
Get rich and hire somebody to make a statue of her.
Yes. Like there are just some things that don't need to be that, because especially with Final Fantasy, there's too much crazy nonsense that needs to happen in that type of a movie.
That it's going to be a little bit hard.
It's just gonna look weird. And if you're already gonna have to do the CG characters to make the action work, just do the rest of the movie CG. I don't need this weird jarring moment where I see, CG people running around. It's like, just make it all CG people and be done with it. I'm fine.
That way their eyes can kind of go off and be looking this way, but kind of drawing off over here. So you go, ugh.
I mean, and the same thing also, I would love to see, like, after this, I would love to see them do Star Fox as well, right? I mean, those are the next
Star
three
Fox.
properties that would make for a really simple, movie story that you could do. I mean, it feels like some of these companies are allergic to money, right? I mean, Sony took them forever to give us the remake, the Final Fantasy VII remake, and I just don't understand it. I don't understand
and
why.
I don't think it's a remake, and I believe it is a continuation of the original. Things change, and it's an expanded type universe.
Sure, but they sold it as a remake, right? That's what it was. And yes, they changed the story, all that, whatever. The point is, it took them forever to create a new game in that universe, right? When people were clamoring for it since the PS3, right, first came out and the tech demo. Mm-hmm. It's like, I get wanting to protect your IP.
Yeah.
Right? And not wanting to dilute it and flood the market with it and everything. I got that. But
wait a minute. Think about it. How many things have they done for it? They've done, and we're talking about movies now, not just the game. I know there were a lot of people wanting, but there was the Advent Children, right?
Before that was Spirits Within.
Spirits Within.
Well, yeah, Spirits Within was in that same universe, but not the same universe. That's that whole thing of
it was a Final Fantasy.
All Final Fantasies are kind of interconnected.
We've had an animated movie, which was the come on, I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically the sequel of 5, Final Fantasy 5 that they originally did. But they've done I think 2 animated movies for Final Fantasy VII.
And then what games have been
Wait,
in that
what's the
same
second
universe?
animated movie for FF7?
Um,
It was Advent Children, and then that's all I'm
no,
aware of.
they did the Before Crisis. It was the stuff that was with the Turks and stuff like that. It led up to the point where Zack has his final battle, and then Cloud
What
takes the
was that?
sword. I can't remember what that one was called,
And
but
it
they
was
didn't
and
release. It
was
was
it a movie
animated.
or was it just like a little short?
No, it was animated. It was about like a 45-minute movie.
Oh, Ghost
That's the first
Adventures,
I've heard
no
of that,
Ghost
but
of Death.
okay.
And then we've got okay, and how many other stories were told within the game? Yeah, that game universe. We had the one about Vincent and
Dirge
Red
of
7.
Cerberus, Dirge of
Yeah.
Cerberus, and then
We had the one about Zack by
yes, which is
himself.
Crisis Core.
And were there other ones?
There was a cell phone game before Crisis, which is where they took the anime. They did the anime for. It wasn't a full adaptation, but it showed more key moments with the Turks and in Cloud and Zack, up to the point where Zack dies.
And then the
Um,
remakes.
yeah. So and then they did like two different versions of Advent Children, but um, I mean, there's a lot of things, but we're talking about two different companies. We're talking about Nintendo with
No,
Mario
no, I
and the
know.
franchise,
I'm
and it's
I'm
Square
being more
Enix.
about video game movies
I
and
mean,
stuff
we
like
did
that.
just get like within the last 2 or 3 years was the Dragon Quest V adaptation movie CGI that was on Netflix. That was great.
What was that
Uh,
one called? It
uh
wasn't called Dragon Quest. It's called something else.
no, it's Dragon Quest. I can't remember, and I don't have this information up here.
Was that the one with
It was the one
where the
with the
where the kingdom's being invaded and the king is had what's his name? The guy who always dies in his movies. He played Boromir in um uh
yes, Dragon Quest Your Story
Fellowship.
2019. It followed the storyline of Dragon Quest V. But I mean, and that one was really good. I mean, heavily CGI'd and it was really great. So I mean, there's a possibility, and plus it was a Akira Toriyama story. I mean, story art. I mean, not story, but his art style. So you could do that with Chrono Trigger, but they're not going to. And that's sad. You know, there's stuff that they can, but they have done a little bitty mini animated short that took place at the Millennium Fair with a bunch of monsters the night before Chrono wakes up and goes to the it starts his journey of the beginning of the game.
And
So
then Metal Gear is a Nintendo game, right?
no, it's Konami,
Konami.
and that's already being worked into a movie. Um, I think the person they
Starring
have
Keanu Reeves
no
as an old
Oscar Isaac is supposed to be him.
Snake.
Yeah,
He's kind of
old,
short.
old.
Well, Snake is
Well,
what does get
Keanu
old.
Reeves is older.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, you're talking about if they're going to do the very first, well, they're not going to do the first Metal Gear game. They'll be doing Metal Gear Solid. And Snake's about 30 something in that game. So,
Okay,
maybe,
so
I mean, Oscar Isaac will sell it, so he'll crush
yeah.
it if he's
what Nintendo what are some Nintendo properties? I don't remember.
Well, besides Donkey Kong, you have Star Fox, which is stuff he just mentioned. You have F-Zero, um, Metroid. I mean, come on, you even got one. It's Punch Out. You can even do
Oh,
that.
no, no. What we need to see is Kirby eating the universe, right? Just he doesn't talk. He's the little pink monster that he is, just going
I
around
think they
gobbling.
should make him an attorney, and he's helping
that's Birdman.
Nintendo go around suing
Yeah,
everybody, and he gets in trial, and then he eats the person who
it's
they're
Birdman.
suing.
Well, then they would
Okay,
just
hey, y'all think I'm joking, but where do you think Kirby came from? Kirby was an attorney who helped Nintendo win a lawsuit, and he was this big, heavyset guy who was
Yeah, I know.
pink because he was always out of breath. And they made Kirby as a tribute to him. That's where the character came from.
Mm.
And then you got Kid Icarus. You have, there's a lot in that franchise. That's one of the things that I was kind of upset about in the movie, though, was that when you go to the Jungle Kingdom, you don't really have any of the Donkey Country music playing. I'm like, come on, give me something. And then, well, we've already talked about this a little bit. I wasn't too hot on the performance of Cranky Kong.
Yeah,
I wanted my grumpy old man, hitting Donkey Kong because he wasn't doing his job.
Should have been Mel Brooks. You son of a, hitting him with the cane.
Okay. So yeah, definitely something you guys need to go check out if you haven't. I know me and my wife plan on going to see it again sometime this weekend or next week. But let's see.
How about Dungeons and Dragons? Did anybody go see Dungeons and Dragons?
No, not yet. I need to.
I made the kids choose because I went and watched John Wick the weekend before, right? And then it was coming up, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm out of my free tickets through the little Cinemark, club thing. So it's like, am I really going to eat, 8 movie tickets in 2 weeks on top of everything that goes into it? I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I sat down both the kids. It's like, all right, D&D or Mario, which do y'all pick? And they chose Mario, so we went to go see Mario. I won't see D&D until it hits home theater stuff. So, I mean, from what I've heard, it seems to be actually a pretty good movie, right?
Yeah.
From the rumblings about it, but
there's not a lot of whole negative on it.
Well, Ember went saw it.
There's not a lot of super positive either. But you know what? Middle of the road stuff means it has the ability to gain traction.
Well, Ember went with a group of about 20 people, and they took up like 2 rows of the theater.
Lord.
And we used to do that. I used to love doing that when because we could take over a theater.
Did they take initiative on who had to sit first?
I don't think there was any dice rolling going on, but I do know that your niece ate all of Brock's popcorn and then handed him back his empty bucket, and Brock was just like devastated because he's like, "Oh, it's coming back my way," and he gets it, and it's like, "Hey, look, I'm a Mandalorian." But it was,
Mandalorian.
but everybody liked it. Everybody
good.
that was there. So
all I've heard is positive noise about it, or like what Colin said, at least not negative noise about it. So,
well, that's good. I mean, you got 2 good movies right here that are making.
Oh, and I think the Dracula
right
movie is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, but that's less of the kids' movie.
Yeah,
I know, but it's still
Renfield.
Great.
Yeah, the Renfield was
Renfield, with Nicolas Cage. And the guy who directed it said it's a direct sequel to the original Bela Lugosi Dracula. That's how they approached it. So I was like, this could be great.
I will watch it eventually, but I'm not going to rush to the theater to see it because I'm on the fence about it. But once it's on one of the streaming services, then I will watch it. Because
from what I've heard, it's better than the trailers make it out to be. Like that's the consistent word I'm hearing is that if you watched it and you thought the trailer looked okay, then you should probably come out of it enjoying it a lot. If you saw the trailer and thought this looks dumb as hell, you might walk out of it going, you know what, that wasn't the worst thing I've seen all year.
Yeah, because Julie said, because she's into the Dracula stuff, and she's like, she watched that trailer and she goes, "No, I don't want to do that." And I'm like, she just like, "No." And I said, let's wait.
I'm tired of sparkly dinosaurs. I mean, vampires.
I hate sparkly dinosaurs.
That sparkle in the daylight and are fashion sensitive.
No disco balls, no lights.
I want a good old fashioned. I want to eat your face vampire.
I mean, in fairness, ever since Twilight died off, we've had a pretty good, consistent diet
vampires,
of evil vampires, right? We've had The Strain. You've got the new Interview with the Vampire show. Like, they've gone back.
Do you like the new
Vampires and Monsters?
The new CDW version of Interview with a Vampire?
Hey, there's still monsters in it at the very least.
Yeah, but no, if you read the books, you're like, okay, no.
But yeah, I think the writer for Renfield, I didn't realize it, but I think it's Robert Kirkman. Like I heard
Yeah,
somebody
I believe it is
look
Kirkman.
it up.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that gives it a little bit of hope to me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I said, I'll wait for streaming and then I'll get my popcorn. I'll sit down and I'll give it a go.
Okay,
See,
so
I've kind of decided that I'm gonna try to support the movies that I like at the theater so that we don't lose good movies at the theater.
Yeah,
Because right now the
fair.
industry is hurting. And if we don't start giving money to the ones we want to see, we're not going to see any of them.
well,
Yeah. It's just I can't go to the movies with the entire family every single week, right? So sometimes
No, but
I
at
like
least once a month, go
lined
see a
up, but
movie.
this one's taking priority.
well, considering the fact that one of these movies,
Not like the other.
Not like the other.
well, actually, there's two of them that are not probably not going to like the other. You know, speaking with my wallet, as much as I hope Indiana Jones is going to be good with all the fixes, it's one of the ones that I kind of want to fail just because it'll usher out somebody that doesn't need to be there,
Well,
that's destroying
yeah,
the universe
okay.
of everything.
And speaking of
So
that,
go ahead. You say yours and I'll say what I
well, you
read
say yours
about
first
one of
because I'm
the.
going to segue into the next topic.
Okay, because they just had they're having a vote in May to let her go in August or to let her wait until Indiana Jones comes out in June and see if it makes a profit. And then if she does, she gets to keep her job until 2024 when her contract runs out. Okay. And she is tripping over herself, and Mangold is tripping over himself to go back and refilm and redo this movie to make it close to what the audience expectation is. You shouldn't get to do a do-over and then claim victory because the audience was the one who pushed you into it, you know? And so I don't want it to be successful. I love Indiana Jones. I just want this to fail so miserable that she goes and crawls off into whatever hole she likes to climb in. And I know that's wrong and it can be taken in any way you want to take it, but she's a vindictive person. And if you watch any of the stuff that went on with the whole Star Wars Disney thing this last weekend, and you go and watch the things she did a lot of interviews on the side for trade magazines and Star Wars mag. She went on podcasts, and while she was saying one thing on stage at the presentations, she was saying something totally different in the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm tired of her. She took a franchise that was estimated about a $5 billion franchise, a studio, and she drove it into the ground. And then she turned around and did it with Willow. And when at one point she thought, oh, this is getting bad. They're going to fire me. She started infighting. She played Yago and whispering into certain people's ears that she knew she could turn to her way, and started infighting in the board of directors. And that has caused a lot of turmoil. And so then, if she wasn't satisfied with that, she was like, you know what? If I lose Star Wars, I'm not ready to go yet. So she started zeroing in on Marvel and started bringing up Marvel's bad movies and how they're not making any money and how Kevin Feige's driving it into the ground. First of all, lady, you're the pot calling the kettle black. Worry about your shit and not what somebody else is doing. But she was trying to get them to put her in charge of the Marvel MCU. And I was like, no, it's bad enough that some of that stuff that came in, that wokeness that was permitting through Disney, ruined a lot of great shows that could have
Potential
propelled
movies,
Marvel even
yeah.
further.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want her to touch anything else. You want to prove yourself, go out, create that studio you wanted, write some scripts of your own with original characters in your type of universe, and quit trying to steal somebody else's so you can push an agenda. And if you're successful, then great. And if you're not, you failed on your own merits. And I feel betrayed because there were a lot of things that were happening that made it look like Star Wars was going to turn around. And because of her manipulations in the background, she could still linger through and just drive whatever we had going over the next 2 years straight into the ground.
Well, considering the fact
And
that she sat there and like announced the new trilogy will have Rey as the
it's
one of the
not a
main
new
characters.
trilogy. She announced 3 films. They're standalone films. There's the Ray, which takes place 15 years in the future. There's the Mangold movie, which takes place 250,000
The
years in the past.
yeah,
And then there is Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire movie,
yeah.
which is going to be the crossover event for all their movies that him and that Favreau work on. And here's another thing. If you're only giving him one movie to do Heir of the Empire, that is going to be a piece of crap to begin with. That would
Right.
be like taking the Lord of the Rings, all the books, and trying to do it into a 2.5 hour movie. I wouldn't go see that, would you?
Or you can
You
be
know,
like you know, The Hobbit and have 3 movies made out of one book. I knew
Or you
that
could
was
let
gonna get David.
or you could let the writing team for She-Hulk take it.
Yeah,
mm,
yeah.
mm, mm, mm.
Anyway,
Come on, meteors, right here. Just come on, take us out.
um,
Where's Galactus when we need him?
so this brings up the topic of the fact that we just had the new trailer for Indiana Jones, and with a total different perspective,
Yep.
and it seemed like it was more geared towards the old fans than
Mhm.
what we were getting with the previous two. And I, as
Okay, no,
much
no,
this,
David, he's right. Go back and watch every trailer that they've put out in the order they came out, and you will notice it goes from a burnout old guy who's messed up his whole life, where he's doing the voiceover, complaining about his past and his mistakes. Then all of a sudden, after the backlash during the Super Bowl and that trailer, they went back and they restarted retooling the film. And then the newest trailer has not Indiana saying all those bad things about himself. It is now what's his name? The guy playing the Nazi talking about how it was Hitler who failed
Matt
and made the
Nicholson.
mistake. So they switched the perspective of Indiana Jones being a burnout and this woman trying to help him with his misogynistic ways to Indy being the hero again. They cut out all the talk of her when she was like picking on him and antagonizing him for his the things he did and making him look foolish in those previews, to where now she's the only really line she has is the line about capitalism, and the other one where she goes, you wanted this. This is something you and my dad looked for. This is your dream. And all of a sudden, it's her pushing him, but he's the main focus of his own movie again. And look at him, because I did. And there's a distinct change in every one of the trailers, and you can see it. Also, we know that they were going to kill off Indy because they had a TV series already in the pipeline for it, where she was going to be going and reenacting some of the things that he did back in the past to keep the timeline from collapsing. Well, once they fixed the film and he no longer dies, guess what that did to that series? There was no longer a need for it, so it's gone away. But not to be undone, Kathleen Kennedy never lets anything go to waste, so now she's producing a female modern version take on Indiana Jones, where it's a female archaeologist, but you don't know if she's in it for the money or this belongs in a museum. And she has all these adventures trying to recover archaeological treasures. And she was like what she said with Star Wars. There's nothing for us to follow. There's no background. We're making this up as we go. There's not like there's books for us to follow. Okay. She's kind of doing the same thing. Disney went and did a series based on National Treasure, which was 2 movies with Nicolas Cage. And then now the daughter of one of those characters is the main character in National Treasure on the show on Disney Plus. So here's Kenny going, we don't have a show like this, but you do. So
Sorry, Dad. Hold on. Let's let go of that anger for a moment because we need to get. Well, that's a whole other segment of this episode. But I don't know. When I watched the trailer, I wasn't enthusiastic about it. I don't know about how you guys. How did y'all feel seeing the trailer?
We already know the trailers this year mostly suck. I mean, I have yet to see a trailer that honestly makes me feel good about a movie. And I know that's not the case. I know that there's a lot of good movies coming and a lot of potential stuff. It's just whoever's doing trailer editing now they just need to.
I thought John Wick was perfect. I thought Avatar 2 was a great trailer for it.
I mean, I want to see John Wick 4, but the trailer didn't make me want to see it. It's already because of the fact that I know what John Wick is.
Yeah.
Well,
Blue Beetle. I mean,
okay.
We were hyping about that.
Beetle was the first trailer I saw this year that made me say.
And we all kind of thought the Flash looked good. The last Flash one.
I was happy to see Michael Keaton's Batman. That's what it was for me.
Well, I mean, that's why they put it in. Like they said, okay, Ezra's got problems, so let's just Keaton the shit out of this.
Yeah. And I was happy to see that. I'm more fangirled over that than actually said, okay, this is going to deserve my wallet. But I will see that.
Look, if you need a good trailer, right? One of the other problems is a lot of trailers now they're even worse about telling you the entire movie in the trailer. There's one trailer though that I saw that I think it's telling me the entire movie, and if it is or if it's not, I don't care because it's amazing. Was Sisu, which is just this Finnish guy going through Nazi Germany and absolutely murdering Nazis in the most hilariously over the top ways possible. So if you want to feel good and you want to see Nazis getting absolutely ripped to shreds, go check out the trailer for Sisu. It looks like it's going to be a fun time.
You said a Finnish movie. I know it's not an American film, and it's
put the link in the chat. I want to. That sounds,
okay. I will.
It kind of reminds me of Inglourious Basterds. It's just this older guy.
It's so much better. Like I was not a big fan of Inglourious for various. I don't need to go into all that, but like I saw Inglourious Basterds once, and I was very lukewarm in terms of reception to that movie. Like it had its moments, but it didn't do it for me for the most part.
No, but that video you sent us about the tanks and the human analog there, that was fun. That was great.
Yes.
That's something that we could link to the channel if possible. I mean, because if they made a short of just that one final shot, that'd be
the howitzer just liquefying that.
Yeah.
76
millimeter howitzer. I said, "Is that a howitzer?" My wife goes, "I don't know." I said, "That's a howitzer." And they said, "This is a 76 millimeter round." I said, "That's a freaking howitzer."
I've seen the review, David.
Yeah.
But let's jump from Indiana Jones to Star Wars Celebration, since we're on a Kathleen Kennedy rant there, and how basically she made it all about her.
Well, it was already talked about. It was going to be about her. This was supposed to be her final send-off of showing her what she's going to do, her legacy. And this was talked about months ago. Yeah.
Just before it happened, there were two really big meetings that the head of Disney went and met with
Iger, right?
Kevin. Yeah, he went and met with Kevin, and he said, "You have a max budget of $75 million per show, with a 2 to 3 max shows a year. For your movies, they cannot go over 175 million without an okay from and review from us." What that told me was that he cares about Marvel, and he realizes Marvel has potential of still growing. So he's trying to fix the problem at Marvel. He didn't tell Kennedy that when he went and had his meeting with her. He basically told her, if Indiana Jones is not successful, we will take whatever money we were going to give you in August and use that to recoup our losses, and you will be fired. And then people who were in the office, people who were there that have witnessed it, said she came out, started having a temper tantrum, throwing stuff, and was berating people and stormed off. He didn't try to offer her the ability to fix anything because I believe he realizes that it's unfixable. And she went in trying to get more time on, I think it was Acolyte, because it's nowhere near ready. She wanted to push it back by, to 2024. Go ahead and release Bad Batch. And now Bad Batch is being released late. And so we're witnessing events that happened in Bad Batch that should have happened before Mandalorian 3 season 3. The pirates, their ship and his crew and the guy with the horns are together in the preview for not Bad Batch, I keep saying that, Skeleton Crew. They're in it. There's this preview of them in it. It's the same ship, it's the same crew, the same captain, and the same horned guy who when it crashes, he deserted them. Remember, he flew off in the ship.
Oh, yeah.
Captain was like, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" He's, "Bye-bye, I'm out of here." So now we're going to have to assume, because they didn't come out in the proper order, that what happens in Skeleton Crew is either going to have to be a flashback, or that magically he forgave the guy who betrayed them while their ship was being attacked and shot down into the ground.
And Plant Man boss decided
the boss,
to be able to survive the flames that would have burned up
somehow
his body.
He and his Ugnaughts were able to survive. And so that led into her making a bunch of phone calls, and then the board deciding they're going to vote on it depending if they want to give her more time, and her being able to go in because they want to give her an out, let her go on a high note, because they don't want the backlash from firing a woman head of a company. And we've already seen how she provokes the audience base with all the stuff she said, like, all the mistakes that were made making Star Wars were the audience's fault, not theirs. We didn't make a mistake. Y'all are too critical. You're too, locked in, all this other crud. And so they allowed her to kind of do her thing. What scares me, though, is that I didn't think Filoni or Favreau was going to appear on stage with her, because there were rumors that they did not want to be on the same stage. But she appeared with Filoni, and that was to announce that he got his own movie. And lately, there have been some things that Filoni has said in interviews that makes me wonder where his allegiances are going. Because, to be a director, you want to grow in a company. And if somebody's offering you stuff, you might lean that way. And Favreau has had some complaints where he's just, I'm fed up. I can go make any other movie I want. I can go do anything I want. He's tired of fighting. So I'm afraid she's kind of wearing down the only two people left that gave a crap about Star Wars, and didn't want to push their agenda.
So your reaction to Filoni being on stage was, no, you were the chosen one.
Yeah, so he was.
You were my brother.
You were the chosen one. You were supposed to bring balance to the Force.
And yet now she's the one screaming, I have the higher ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With her, I'm going to bring back Daisy Ridley to play, which I have nothing wrong with Daisy Ridley. It's Rey. I have problems with Rey.
I don't have any problem with Daisy Ridley. I've seen her in other movies. I like her.
Yeah.
What I have a problem with is giving her Luke's history.
Right.
She's going to bring the new Jedi Academy, the one that from the books.
This is the salt on the wound, right? It's like, we didn't give you the original trilogy characters together in one scene, right? So guess what? We're going to bring back a character from the sequel trilogy to a new movie that could start a possible another trilogy. No.
But again, it's not even her story. Like you're saying, she's technically just getting Luke's story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Oh, so she's the one who establishes the Jedi Order. Okay. I guess.
She's just great Jedi master, she just through osmosis.
She did all of that hardcore Jedi training.
Which, okay, I know that I want to save this for our breakdown for episode
like 15
7.
minutes in the woods with Princess Leia. She got a whole lot of training.
I want to say this, but how the hell? It even reinforces even now the fact of what happens at episode 7 with one of the characters and how badass he fights. How the hell did Rey be able to beat Gamorrean? I mean, the Imperial Guards, the Primordial Guards, or whatever.
The Praetorians.
Praetorians, yeah. How the hell? I don't understand. How the hell did she do it with no training?
She read those books, boy, and I tell you what, them words just.
The books said burn?
Yeah.
She never got to read them. They got destroyed.
No. She stole them. She got the
whole. No, she stole them. That whole thing was an image to mess with Luke that they were actually being burned when they were actually stolen.
So
by her. Yeah, she stole them. Yeah,
I must have blinked at that part because I don't remember that.
Nope, she has the books.
They just osmosis right through her fingers when she had them books in her hands.
Yeah. She's like Johnny Five, in Short Circuit. Need input with all the book pages.
And why did they have books when there were holocrons?
Yeah,
because they're old.
Yeah, they're old. Yes, exactly.
That's how old they are.
They're really old.
Yeah.
Old.
No one in the universe of Star Wars developed a scanner to scan all this information into a datapad and then have it backed up.
Well, the whole idea was
the Jedi didn't have this stuff backed up.
The person recording the holocron puts in part of their essence. It's kind of like the paintings from Harry Potter. How the paintings that came to life had at part of the essence of the spirit that they had. You could go, hey, go check this out and tell me what they're doing over there. And they didn't just go, So that's what a holocron was. So when you were somebody who did the light side and you messed with a dark side holocron, you were constantly tempting your fate that they could corrupt you from within. But now it's books. Oh my God, I read this book and there's a chapter in here and it's making me evil.
And the sad thing is, I think, what was it today that it was announced that looks like Ruin Johnson's going to get his trilogy? And
no. She said in the article today that he is too busy working on other projects and that we can't think about doing it right now. She would not say it was not done. She just said, if we do it, it's going to be in a galaxy far, far away, long, long from now. That's what she said. She played so many word games today in 2 interviews. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, look, guys.
In other words, if Indiana Jones makes it, she makes it, then they're going to announce it.
I'm done with Star Wars at that point. I'm done.
Well, he's doing another Glass Onion film, and then he's got another film he wrote. So that's 2 movies before he can even think about writing on a Star Wars that he was supposed to have already written.
What is it going to be now? It's going to be Looper in space.
It's going to be a English detective who is trying to solve a murder on a battle cruiser
on Coruscant. Yeah,
it's going to be about this blue box that just shows up randomly, and one guy comes out, and 50 people can follow him. That's what it's going to be about.
Oh man, I don't know. I really wanted some high hopes from this. I mean, Ahsoka looks fantastic.
Yes,
that's the only one out of this whole thing that was like the most felt like Star Wars ever. I mean, it was ties into what the new movie is going to be. It brought in Rebels characters. It brought in some new characters, which could be people from Heir to the Empire trilogy. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be done, and they're talking. It looks like you got to see Ezra,
You
Hera,
got to remember, they were writing this when everything was supposed to be staying in order. Now,
Yes.
So some of the stuff that's going to be in Ahsoka is probably going to be stuff that was supposed to be.
Both Filoni and Favreau said this is going to be the new start. They're going to continue Mandalorian, but the focus is shifting over to Ahsoka, which is going to be the more Empire stuff.
Right.
So we're going to have, it's going to be the flagship. You know, like Walking Dead was the flagship, but there were several other series within the same universe. But we're supposed to get 5 seasons of Mandalorian. Now there's rumors that there only might be one more season. Ahsoka has been signed. The actors have been signed to a 2-season contract. Mm-hmm. Andor has now been reduced to 1 season. How many shows have they promised that never saw the light of day that cost them money because they were in the middle of production and writing and all this other stuff? And some of there was stop it. Cat's trying to unplug my computer. They were already filming some of the background plates and things like that. So there was production actually going on. None of that's coming about. And there was she in one interview she talked about hopefully one day I talked to Vince about this, do a sequel to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And she tried to make it sound like Ewan McGregor didn't want to do a sequel to it right now. And then when you hear Ewan McGregor say, I'm ready for it, as long as, we work on some of the things that were the problem. And then the greatest thing that happened this weekend was the little girl who played Princess Leia out of the mouths of babes on stage rips a new one into the writers of Obi-Wan Kenobi and goes, who believes that you can hide a child under a jacket? This little girl just ripped him a new one. She goes, I was like, when we were filming it, I was laughing. He was like, stay down there. And she goes, this is stupid. Who would believe this? And Ewan McGregor's like, hush. But for a child to get that the writing is that bad, that says everything.
Well, but hey, Star Wars has always been silly, though. It's always been silly forever. It's all just a bunch of gags and jokes and laughs, right?
Yeah.
That was the excuse that everyone gave whenever.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. We've had a reactor leak. How are you doing? Is that what you mean?
What?
Never mind. Quit trying to call people, Kat.
Han trying to tell the stormtroopers of what's going on down at the prison level.
Bad conversation.
Anyway. The first part of it, I guess.
But I don't know.
Short for a stormtrooper.
I would be short for a stormtrooper. There was at least some good humor in the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. I mean, not the sequel trilogy, but the prequel trilogy. Sequel trilogy was very I don't know, on the nose about some of the stuff.
No, I mean, all both of the sequel and the prequel and the original, they had their moments, but they were fun. I mean, yes, like when he fell off the stupid tick cow showing off for Amidala. Yeah. I was just run him over, just cripple him, make it. That's why he's got robotic legs. Some of that stuff could have just gone.
Anakin in the hospital.
I mean, I keep thinking of they could have done Anakin and her dancing like Travolta in what's her name in Pulp Fiction. Never mind.
I'm sure someone's done that. All right, so
I don't know. As far as humor bits, the only humorous bit I can honestly remember from the sequel set was when Mark Hamill at when they were fire everything at him, and he was just standing there, just brushing off the dust. You know,
I mean,
that that
there
was
was other
that
stuff
was
in it.
good.
There was other stuff in it that was like visual gags and crap. Like whenever in the beginning of Last Jedi, whenever Finn gets up out of the bed and he's walking around, and he's got all the tubes and crap still attached to him and spraying water everywhere. I think moments like that were supposed to.
What movie?
Huh?
What movie was
Last
that?
Jedi.
Last
Last
I've
Jedi.
never heard of that movie.
Oh, yeah. I'm
When
sorry.
did that? When did that come out?
You don't want to know. We wiped it from your memory.
Kathleen
Um,
Kennedy had a private showing at her house. That's what happened.
Did you see the previews that I posted for the cut scene for the edited scene from the original Rancor pit?
no, not yet. I did see that. I gotta check it out.
And it explains why and what was going on. They were trying to Lucas was trying to say that when the originally the Gamorrean guard and him were supposed to be fighting. And while that was going on, Luke had in his mind the lesson of the tree. What will I find in here? Only what you take with you. So he's deprived of his lightsaber when he's fighting in the pit with the Gamorrean guard. Then they have to turn to fight and face the Rancor. Well, while the Gamorrean guard's getting eaten, Luke jumps up and he's holding on to the grating of the pit, and the Jawas are going like this, hitting his hand, trying to knock him back down. And when he falls, he looks and he realizes there's nothing here. And so he has to use what he has available. That's why he used the bone to lock the jaw and then the skull to eventually hit. It was to show Luke that he could fight without any tools. His body's the best weapon. His mind is the best weapon.
Yeah.
And hearing them talk about while they were filming it and why they filmed it, you get into the head of what they were trying to do when they were doing those scenes. And there were a couple of other ones. There was one scene where earlier on in the film, Luke was working in Ben's house and he creates his lightsaber, the green one. And there's a scene where he connects it and turns it on and it goes up. And he goes, I love this scene because it shows that he was learning from what Ben had left, the notes that Ben had left. But it took away from that dramatic scene when he first lights the lightsaber up in
On the barge.
the barge.
Yeah.
So he had to decide which one had the most impact. Man, I love getting into what was going on when they were, and it's recorded when they were filming. So it's not something that they're retrospectively going back 20 years later and then trying to rethink about what was in their head. These were their little diaries that they made while they were filming the movie.
And that was what was cool about like any of Lucas's stuff whenever he was filming all the films. He would literally just sit at the camera or talk about whatever his thought process was while he was filming.
Mm-hmm.
It was never, like you said, a retrospective of it. But let's we can move away from this. I mean, unless there's something else we want to talk about that wasn't brought up. I mean,
No.
Ahsoka was the biggest thing. I know that they had another Tales of the Jedi, but I hadn't checked out that trailer yet. So
Wait, what
He's
is it?
promising it's going to be whereas the last ones were like Ahsoka, Dooku, and Qui-Gon heavy. He's going to go into other characters. And I'm guessing they're going to be characters that we're going to see in later episodes, like of Ahsoka and stuff like that.
probably, which
Well-
would make sense.
I was gonna say I don't think it was Tales of the Jedi. It was Visions, right? Visions was the one. That they
Oh
announced.
yeah, it was Vision. It was Visions.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I thought they did talk about Tales of the Jedi also, but I don't think they had a
I
trailer
thought they
for
said
it.
that Tales of the Jedi was getting.
Yeah, they got a second
Vision.
season, but they're not going to do. They didn't show. I think they showed images, but they didn't show a trailer. So it was Visions that I think had the second trailer.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that either. But we can get into the meat of this episode, what we wanted to talk about, which is I know I talked about last episode that we were going to discuss our review and in-depth discussion on The Last Ronin, but we're going to actually talk about The Doom That Comes to Gotham, one of the animated movies that came out about 2 weeks ago. really fantastically animated. Story was really good. Great characters, music. We want to get into this, so guys.
The animation style is what kept it for me. Because what? All right, I'll go into this saying that I never got to read the books, okay, but I know Lovecraftian lore. I had my son Travis with me. Travis, he's big on Lovecraftian stuff. He'd read the Doom That Came to Gotham books. So luckily I had him to say, okay, this is supposed to represent this and this. Because for me, just going into watching it, it felt like, it was like, oh, well, let's cram as many characters in here as we can possibly, let's shoehorn them in and hope that the story is good. And it took me a little while to get over that particular hump to say, okay, the story isn't bad. There's a reason for these characters, there are these representations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what held it for me the whole time was the animation style. Okay, absolutely.
It's Tales of the Jedi. It's not Visions. Visions was another show, animated show, but the one we're talking about is Tales of the Jedi.
This is totally Dad. We could have. That's.
Come on,
I'm sorry.
Come on back. We're talking about Dave Goes to Gotham.
We moved away from that. It's okay.
My apology.
All right, Colin, go ahead. Continue.
Animation was great.
Yeah, well, you're also saying how the fact that when you were watching it, you felt that they shoehorned a lot of characters, but as you got through it.
I mean, because there's and they took the character of Cassandra, okay, and made her an amalgamation of a couple characters, and then they took Sanjay, who was supposed to be Jason Todd, and made him. They put him on the boat and didn't have him do anything, and then he's gone, and you're like, well, why was that there? You could have done twice as much with Dick Grayson.
Both Dick and Sanjay or Tim, their deaths are pretty close to what they were in the show. Sandra Cain is not in the book. It is Tim Drake.
Okay. Oh, so it was all three of them. Okay.
It was all three of the
sons. So they swapped it out. There.
Yes.
Okay. But to me, it just, it plays into him, the overall arc of what Bruce Wayne does about the thing is he had them all at once. Fine. But it just seemed, especially with Sanjay / Todd, it felt forced. You had to have somebody in there to handle Freeze. And then, I don't know. Everybody was there.
Jason Todd is smart enough to know, keep the damn freezer door shut.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The only thing that you could draw from that, and which is, I started picking up little hints that there were plenty of Easter eggs and plenty of little bits in there to where if they wanted to continue this universe with these characters, there are ways to do it, and there are certain things they can do with certain ones. Sanjay / Todd being one of them. Okay. There was also, skipping ahead a bit, there's the clock tower thing, Court of Owls. They could have completely, and there's a way they could rework how the four of them, being over 300 years old, started this little society, this little pact that they were going to do all these things. It leaves a lot of openings for me.
But I think some of it was throwbacks. I love the whole idea of the harbor freezing over, which goes back to one of Bruce Timm's Adventures of Batman, where Mr. Freeze froze Gotham.
Yeah.
And the riverfront was frozen. That kind of had that feel for me. So I think they were trying to throw in as many
homages
homages.
Well, it was
Easter eggs for people, but in changing some of the characters, they changed how the story works.
Right.
And because it's really kind of a different story.
The story overall was okay, but it clearly felt like something was. You could feel the deviation, even though I hadn't read the book. Travis did. He goes, "Okay, yeah, these are two different stories, basically."
The cat, like Penguin, is the same. There's elements that are there. The core of it is the original story. But I think they just were tweaking it,
it feels like Two-Face was extraneous. You know, I mean, I don't know how close to what he was in the book.
Just like that.
He ended
He
up
was
just being the
just like
gateway
that.
keeper.
And what I really liked, Ollie was a little bit different, but the fight that where he has to fight with his
Yeah.
Dick and Sanjay and then Ollie, that's pretty close. I mean, and his not wanting to kill them, and I mean, Dick really attacks him. We
Yeah.
don't really see that much, but in the fight, he's more of a fight than Ollie is. But Ollie's like that whole moment where Ollie's like, "Oh, thank God," I just
Right.
so I'm glad. Thank you for killing me. That's in there. So
Right.
they captured the moment. So and but the book has more of that Eldridge feel. The whole Lovecraft is heavier in the book than it is in the anime.
And there was
Well,
a point that Travis brought up that I actually could see where his perspective was. He said if since what they did with Ollie and they made him the Knight Templar, he says if they were going to change up so much stuff, why not just make Ollie Jean Paul Valley?
Well, that's
Dad
what I
said
was going
that
to say.
too.
That's what he said.
I mean, he said it would have fit so much better. And I just from what I saw, I'm like, okay, yeah, that would Azrael in place of Ollie would have made for more intriguing. And then that final fight scene there, that would have played a little bit better because it would have been, the whole Holy War thing.
He felt out of place as the knight versus being his Robin Hood persona,
Right. I was expecting more traditional Green Lantern, but then I got Knights Templar. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting twist, but it doesn't suit him. So, and I mean, I was fine with it in the long run, but Travis's point of making it Jean Paul Valley and then really showing those diametrically opposed sides and stuff like that. And Ollie was a terrible shot. Come on, what was he, a stormtrooper? Seriously?
Yeah.
And no matter what iteration in, he's always a good shot, and he's just ripping off arrows. No,
Bruce doesn't even bother firing him. He's like,
yeah,
I mean, using them like
if he was going to get close combat with that thing, he might as well have just taken the arrows and just jabbed him there because he was a stormtrooper with those arrows, and it was awful.
But Mike,
they had to ground it to the story, though, right?
Well, I know that, but still, regardless, Ollie was always a good shot, no matter what it is. And it literally missed the mark on that particular point.
Right. And that I need to read the book, so I'll just try to borrow from that or pick it up myself so I can see the differences. But I know that Mike Mignola was the writer and artist, right? I think on that.
Well, there was another writer. He was the artist and worked with the writer.
Right. Because I mean his work with Hellboy, this is very much up his forte. So
yeah, no, I do want to hunt down the book myself as well because I love his art style. And he does know how to, even if he's not the writer and he's just helping out with the writing, he knows what he's doing. He can tell.
He's the perfect person if you're going to tell this type of story,
right?
And then they're doing a third Hellboy now. There's supposedly a new Hellboy coming.
Yeah, they're doing a. Yes, it's not David Harbour anymore. It's an all new.
Yep,
that's neither here nor there.
It's going to be from one of the books, another one of the books, because each one of the movies actually came from one group of books.
Right, but
so David, let's call on you. You want to continue?
Well, the only other point I would like to make, and it's a slight tangent to it, was since they were altering stuff like that. And not knowing, like I said, not having read the book, my first observation was, if you're going to have all this stuff, you're going to have Etrigan in there, why not have a version of Constantine? Because something like this would if John Constantine were alive or a version of him in that time frame, in that Elseworld, he absolutely would have shown up. And yeah, he would have known what to do a little bit more, but he also would have made it worse.
Which could have explained why Batman had to turn himself into a bat versus him being able to find a way, without having the transmutation himself into something or transmorph.
And then that's Lovecraftian, so that actually kind of worked out in the end, and he survived. But My second thought on the whole Hellblazer thing is, if you really wanted to tell a good Hellblazer story, you could use this as a foundation and create a new universe type of thing off of that, because it was just so lending to him. I was just kept thinking, okay, is he going to be in here? Is he, is this where it happens? Because there were 2 or 3 points where, even if it was just a cameo, 5 minutes, he could have been the one to explain it instead of Etrigan, since they were around with the storyline. But
and this could have been something where, if they do a sequel or something like that,
yeah, I mean,
you could have what happened in this movie. There should have been residue of the Elder Gods or just all that stuff that would attract John to Gotham to investigate.
Exactly. And
like
I said, with Sanjay / Todd, and there's the Lazarus Pit clearly in there.
Yeah,
you could bring him back. If you were to do, I would think it a Court of Owls-esque thing, based upon the 4 of them and the people who follow them. And then if you want somebody to be there, Batman would obviously still be there in his new form. But if somehow Sanjay's body ended up in the pit, then you would have, you could do more. And if they're all about having all these characters in, you could expand that, have a new version of the Red Hood, which would be more steampunkish, old world, whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential for it. It just, because it's just, and it's like what they did with Two-Face. Okay. I mean, it was interesting, but at the same time, it made me think, well, maybe that could have been Clayface, and Clayface could have been a representation of another one of these monsters. Or like I said, I'm going to have to go back and read the book and see, so I know the differences.
On that, there was an announcement this same weekend for DC that they announced the director who's going to direct Swamp Thing. Man Thing. Yeah. Which one is DC's?
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing.
They announced him. Who's directing, and I can't remember what it is. I'll have to look it up, and I'll get.
And they also announced that Frank Grillo, if you're going to go into the bigger DC thing, that Frank Grillo is going to be the original Rick Flag.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I mean, I had a lot of interesting thoughts and stuff like that as far as the Doom, and by the end of it, I was satisfied with watching it. Okay, because I was able to get over those humps where I'm thinking, okay, this is just gonna be this is just gonna be this, and I'm like telling myself to shut up and just enjoy it, see what happens. And by the end, it reminded me of, there was another Batman book where he became a bat. It was an Elseworld, and I can't remember the name of it. But basically, the ending of it.
There was a series of vampire Elseworld books that had Bruce, that all were part of this one universe. I think that might be
because I remember it specifically. It was like Blood Moon or something. I can't remember the name of it, but basically Batman was a man bat thing, and I'm looking at that going, okay, if that's part of the story, great, but otherwise it's like an Easter egg, it's a tribute, something, and it worked. David, what were your thoughts on it? You're checking my job today, not saying anything.
No, that's fine. No, I really enjoyed it. I haven't read the comic either, so I don't know what the differences are. But I mean, part of the joy of Elseworlds, part of the interesting thing and the creative part that goes into Elseworlds is how they fold in all these other characters, right? So. And some of it goes to subverting what you think should happen with them, like Ollie playing more of the part of Azrael, right, rather than it being Jean-Paul Vallée, which it would make more sense with this being a pretty much entirely all about Batman. It would make more sense to leave it just all about Batman characters, but it's just a fun little curveball, right, to just throw in there and say, because we need a rich guy, right? We need a rich guy to have been part of the original founding group and all this other stuff. So yeah, let's just throw Ollie in there and it works. And so for that side of it, I really enjoy it. That's the cool part about Elseworlds, is seeing how they manipulate the origins and the stories of these characters into, and fitting them into this new world, right? Like the way that they handled Freeze, And I think part of the reason with Todd, dying the way that he did, and sort of the theme, I guess you could say, of the thing was them coming to grips with the supernatural, right? Because it starts off with Batman being Batman and wanting to be able to easily explain that, oh, these are just, weird mutations of people and all this stuff, right? He does not initially realizing the real scope of what he's facing, right? So I wasn't too torn up by that. I was surprised with how quick, right? Jason went down, Dick went down. Like, man, okay, the Robins are dropping like flies in here, right? But
they fought better when they were dead, which was really funny.
So much better when they were.
Dick fights Killer Croc pretty good. I'm gonna say that much.
Yeah.
Wait, when did
Killer Croc is the thing that looks like it's got a beak?
Yeah, Batman fought it. Bruce fought it. Not
no. Dick fights it when he goes to check on Sanjay, and the Killer Croc invades the ship to get Mr. Freeze or Mr. Zero.
Yeah, I kind of missed a couple pieces.
And that's when he kills.
Like that. And that was another funny thing, right? Was the fact that they called him Mr. Zero, right? They used his original name in that rather than trying to call him Freeze or something else like that. So it was fun to see little Easter eggs like that. I like the fact that we got the Reanimator back to do the voice of Langstrom. That was great. Jeffrey Combs in there getting some Lovecraft work in, right? And then, I mean, I like some of it. I get that some of it was just, a lot of these DC movies, they get shortened down for the sake of time. So, you can't go too deep into some of the effects and some of the backstory and some of the unfolding of events. So, like with Two-Face, right? I thought that was a pretty interesting way of handling, again, his character, right? He's not only been corrupted by the demon Ivy, but now his body's turned into the gateway into this other world kind of deal. Those little concepts are really cool, and that's the kind of stuff that, like I said, and like what you're talking about, it stokes your imagination for the possibilities, and that's what you want from an Elseworld like this is seeing, man, how cool would it be to see what they could do with this character or that character, or what would this look like? Because the thing about Lovecraft, there's not one elder god, right? There's one
a ton of them
that's running around out there. I get, and in fact, what Roz refers to himself as Hastur, right? And Hastur is an elder god.
Yeah, direct reference.
Lovecraft stuff. So the question would be, could you bring Nyarlathotep, a Nyarlathotep type character, into this world, and that be the thing that maybe Constantine is chasing and leads into this, and maybe he helps revert Batman back to being his human self?
If they wanted to do a sequel in the anime, but not in the book, because he's not going to come back and do a sequel to the book.
Yeah. No. It would definitely be the show.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to add that if they took that story, the Doom, and made it 2 parts, like they did Long Halloween and The Dark Knight, and really fleshed it out, some of it, there were a couple things that seemed like they were a little forced for time.
It's pretty truncated. The books itself, you talk about the Long Halloween. That's a huge book. That's a huge series.
That was 12 issues. That was a whole year-long version.
And some of those, like Hush was a pretty long series. Some of those you can turn into 2 movies. This, having just reread the book, is as close as you can get to the source material. You would have been adding extra stuff that didn't belong if they had tried to stretch it out to anything else.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to reading the rest of his tour de force through DC, because that's a much bigger trade. Because he's like, he does a ton of stories in and out, weaving in and out through other characters that you wouldn't think would be horror related. Right. And I was like, man, this is really good, but I want to wait until I've got some time to sit down and enjoy it.
Because I remember before when we were talking about speculating whether or not it was connected to
Gotham by Gaslight. Yeah.
Gotham by Gaslight. Yeah.
But as we discovered as we went further on, the timing is all.
Well, it's off by 20 years in the movie and 30 years in the book. But the book, if you think about that 30 years, 10 years of it was Batman being Batman. Right. He was gone in the book. He's gone for 20 years.
Yeah.
Just like he was in the movie.
Uh-huh.
But he had 10 years of being Batman, whereas in the movie, he never became, he left being Batman. He left. And so if you go back and you read the Gotham by Gaslight, which is Earth 99999 or something like that. And there's other stories that take place in Gotham by Gaslight. They've never said what universe this is in. And DC was going through all of their Elseworlds and creating designations for each of the worlds and tying them together. And they have not done that with this one. So
I don't know if you...
that was because he wanted it that way. He didn't want it to tie into anything else. But the look, it was in his mind because the way he drew him has a very stylized look of the Gotham by Gaslight outfit. And it's within the same time frame, of 30, 40 years.
So because he took an old outfit and it was an outfit he had and didn't use for a long time. So that part made sense as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it could be considered a spiritual successor, or at least
that's what I called it, a spiritual successor.
Or it could just be another nod. It could be just another Easter egg.
Right. Well, and the thing too is, like, I don't know about you guys, but I was telling my dad, I got very Johnny Quest feel from this. And I'd love to.
Yeah, I could see that.
I would love to see like a Johnny Quest style TV show with this Batman and his cohorts, the trio.
Yep. Traveling the world,
solving just different
stuff that adventures. Led up to it, stuff that took place before
the darkness, before it was known.
Before the murder.
Yeah.
Before all the murdery bits, yes. Where they're out and how he came to get each one of them. That would be cool.
And Gordon isn't there with the cops whenever Batman comes in and they're divvying up the loot and stuff. And he takes out the cops and Gordon comes in and hollers at the other officers to get him. He's not there in that scene at all. His roles was a little different in the story. I basically remember one of the bigger things was when he was trying to stop Dick from going back on the ship.
Yeah.
And then when he was hounding Bruce because his daughter needed to talk to him.
Yeah. And she became the Oracle, but she was stuck inside the Arkham Asylum.
She would get possessed. That was what was great. She was like, what do they call that? That in spirituality, it's where you become a conduit for
an oracle.
Medium. Yeah, an oracle.
Literally an oracle.
Oracle. Yeah.
If you go back and look at the old Greece,
the Greeks, it's oracle, but there's another name for it.
It's a spirit medium. But it goes way back to the old Greek stuff, and there was an Indiana Jones book about the Oracle of Delphi.
Oracle of Delphi. Yeah, I still have that book.
Same concept. So when I saw that, I go, that's clever. That's good writing right there. Give Oracle, same Oracle, different side of the coin on it, and I was like, that's really clever. I thoroughly enjoyed that whole part of it.
And honestly, it'd kind of been cool too because they didn't really. Other than the guy, the librarian who, laughs like the Joker at one point or whatever, the Joker's not really in this at all. Mm-hmm. When kind of cool having him be a partner with Bruce on the ship or something, and him going mad because of the madness of the
right. But thing is,
if you look at
when Ollie's dad did what he did,
yes, he was basically
that was like the only nod that I really got from it.
Right. Well, he became Joe Cool. He was the one who killed Bruce's parents.
well, I wasn't gonna say we're doing very spoilery stuff here, but yeah.
Well,
So
I mean, it's
when
been out
Ollie's
2
dad
weeks.
kills his parents, he was very Joker-esque at that last minute.
Yes.
And he was a little unraveled there. So
Mhm.
it could have it ties into the greater theme of things. But to me, that was the only nod to Joker, which I was fine with because I've seen enough Joker. I like seeing the other characters.
Oh yeah, I did too.
I mean, there were
Croc
a couple of them.
is just an alligator or dinosaur demon looking creature.
Yeah, he was just more of what Bane was in Batman Forever. It just or Batman and Robin, my bad. But he was just more of a servanty thing. He wasn't actually Killer Croc.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
So I mean,
no,
again, an Elseworld variation of it.
He eats people.
Yeah.
So
Did y'all see the whole cameo of Lois and Clark in the they're in 2 scenes in the movie?
Yes, right at the end. Yeah, I definitely saw that.
Yeah.
Which tells me again, if they were going to explore sequels and stuff like that, at least Clark Kent exists.
Well, yeah, Clark Kent exists because I think if he'd been Superman, he would have gotten involved.
Yeah, there was unless as Travis and I were discussing, magic against Superman.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be like, "No, I'm
but
out,
then he
guys."
wouldn't be Superman. If Superman
out.
was afraid of somebody using magic on him, he wouldn't be Superman because Superman jumps into a fire no matter what the odds are.
Exactly. But then this is an Elseworld version of Clark Kent. He could be, he's like, oh, I don't really want to.
Coward, a spineless coward.
Yeah.
Maybe Lois.
I'm invulnerable. I can fly. I can do all kinds of things. But damn, I'm afraid. I'm not gonna do. Have you ever stubbed your toe? No. I don't even think you can.
So Travis just reminded me that there was an Amish Superman.
From the Nail. Yeah, that's from the Nail.
And he did absolutely nothing.
Oh, he was
He did squat.
Was he Amish?
He
was
raised
a farmer.
Barn.
So turn the other cheek, brother.
He raised a barn. That's what that one did.
But yeah, I mean, it was a great movie. I just felt that like at some point, Bruce, I mean, Dick, Jason Todd, and the other version of Tim Drake, I would have expected them to have more of a presence on the thing. And it was like when you got to see this point where Dick is going to have this full out blown whatever, it flashes. There's gunfire and he's dead.
Come on, man. I was hoping to see at least even if he didn't make it all the way through it, I was expecting a little bit.
Well, here's the thing. He had quit being Batman. He quit training. He was not wanting to be that person.
Well, Cassandra.
So he did, but Cassandra wasn't in the book. They just gave her, Tim makes it because he's smart and he's figuring things out. They kind of did that a little bit with Cassandra, but Dick's just as brave as what he is. He doesn't use batons. He doesn't have no acrobatics or anything. He uses a gun.
Yeah.
But against somebody like Killer Croc, realistically, you'd be mincemeat.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, it was truer to what would have happened to the characters. And just think, Mr. Zero could freeze an entire harbor. And man, unless Sanjay got up and ran out, there's a good chance he didn't even feel it. He became hypothermic before he knew it, and he was gone.
Yeah.
I would have lit that boat on fire and jumped out. But yeah, no.
I mean, why not just close the door?
But I think we beat it to death. What do you think? What would you rate it in a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5 because of the fact it took me a little time to get into it proper. If it had grabbed my attention sooner, it would have been higher. But once I was in it, I was in it. The fact that the animation was the key thing that held me on until I was able to really just reset and absorb it and just take it in. 8.5.
David?
I give a solid 8. And there's your Amish
Superman. Yeah.
with.
You went and pulled
It's
out the nail.
It looks like Jimmy Olsen in a.
Well, that's Olsen right there.
Look at that. I said it looks like Jimmy Olsen. I was going to say in Kal-El.
Why was Olsen wearing the Kryptonian uniform?
Exactly. That's never seen that book before in my life.
No, I've read it. I'm just like, I don't remember. I have both it and the sequel.
I know DC writing it.
If I remember right, I'd have to go scan back through this. If I remember right, someone was doing genetic experiments on him using Kryptonian DNA. Kind of like what the old Golden Age stories did, right? Whenever he would temporarily be given powers.
Yeah, like when he became Elastic Lad and the turtle.
Yeah. And I think it was like the U.S. government was doing that to him, and over time it drove him insane. So like they knew that about the Kryptonian landing on Earth, but they never found him. But somehow they found enough of him to be able to do experiments, and so that's what drove Jimmy insane. If I remember right, it's been.
I thought they found the ship.
I think that's what it was. They found the ship, and that's what they. I remember they found something, and I want to say, like I said, they were experimenting on Jimmy, and that's what drove him crazy and turned him into the murderous, insane person that he is for the first male.
Okay, well, awesome. Dad, what would you give it? The movie
about 8.5. I could even be generous if is 9 now, knowing what was in the source material. Anytime they can be as true as that one was, I'm all for it. Because I really can't stand when it's only an adaptation in name only.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the source material.
Yeah, like Killing Joke.
So I'd give it a 9 because it was one of the best ones we've gotten in a while. It was a good story. I like the whole Lovecraftian feel, and I love the playing up on the characters and stuff. If you were in the know, who these characters are supposed to be. And it was kind of sad having Bruce give up his legacy as being Bruce and then just embracing being Batman officially. And he'll always be there to protect Gotham, and that's the only thing he does. And technically that's what Bruce does anyway, but he doesn't have that. This version of him doesn't have that obligation anymore because that version of him is dead.
I think I want to bring up one more thing about it before we move on to something else, and that was, we talked about this, is just having the bats be the enemy was not enough.
No.
There had to be a reason for him to become the bat. And I kept looking for the ultrasonics because Langston was talking about that bats are blind, that everything revolves around waves and sound and everything. Okay. I was like, okay, they're setting up what the vulnerability is of these creatures because they're in a vacuum, And so Bruce getting that power, then doing sonic screams, damaging it. That's what I was expecting because I hadn't read the original material. And if I did, I think I only read the first issue. And I was like, I was expecting that shift to that, and it never happened. So I felt that was a missed opportunity. It can't just be that the bats have some kind of supernatural power that drives them off. I wanted it to have something physical, reason for the manifestation.
All right. I think that's just about it. We can wrap up the episode. All right, everyone. We thank you for checking out this episode. We will be back next week. The topic discussion as far as the material we'll be reading or watching is going to be The Last Ronin, like we promised. So stay tuned. We will find out who The Last Ronin is, even though most people should know. But until then, everyone have a great one. And keep your light on because monsters crawl under your bed. Later.
See you. Same bat time, same bat channel.